So welcome to the Cardmarket studio. Today, Yamin and me, Carl, as we brought up yesterday in the gameplay video where we played Blue-White Control against Esper Reanimator, we have a contest going on this month in November. We like budget decks. We like not spending a lot of money to have a lot of fun. So we decided that we're giving out a budget deck. On the theme of that, in the meantime, right before we tell you about the contest a little more, we're going to talk about 5 modern decks that with shipping cost under €50. We're going to list them all in order, but before, would you like to remind anyone about the contest we've got going on?
How fitting. I would like to remind everyone of the contest. So what we're doing is you can submit your budget deck of below €100 to our email, mtg-contest@cardmarket.com. Just make sure to please include the deck list and include a screenshot of either your shopping cart on Cardmarket or the shopping wizard saying that this is in total with shipping and everything below €100. Also, it doesn't matter if you're a user from Britain because we will accept pound submissions. Just make sure that it's below around £85 sterling. We will pick one of those decks randomly. I will play that deck. Carl will pick a tier 1 deck in Modern or just any Modern deck he likes. We will play that against it, and if your deck wins against Carl, which it's really easy to win against Carl.
Come on.
If you win that match, we ship you that deck. We'll sleeve it up, we'll put it in the deck box, and
send it straight to you.
So, yeah.
We won't throw it though.
We won't throw it. No. We'll be very careful with it.
And I've talked about the contest.
Yeah, now it's time for inspiration.
Let's talk about the decks. Right before we talk about inspiration, please, we just need to tell you guys that we put a lot of effort into these videos, and the main way you can pay us back is if you're not currently subbed to our YouTube channel, you can please just go ahead and sub. If you guys don't sub in droves to this video, we're gonna have to be really embarrassed and change the name of Cardmarket to Meta Market, and we don't want to do that. So, just click that sub button, and now, Yamin, would you like to tell me about the first modern deck under €50 that you've got there?
You did some really good research and got 5 decks that are each below €50 with shipping, which is incredible.
And they're potentially competitive, right?
They are.
Some of them, they're actually pretty good.
I mean, you have to judge for yourself whether you think those decks are competitive, but like that's why we present them here. And the first one is a version of a really old archetype that was renamed, but now it's back to its original name, which is Affinity. We're playing all the OG Affinity cards. Like, we're playing Mirror Enforcers, we're playing Frogmites. That's what we're up to. Like, the plan, as always, is to flood the board with as many artifacts as possible, and then have your payoff ready in the form of Signal Pest and Cranial Plating. You also have the huge power-up of Modern Horizons 2, Thought Monitor.
Yeah.
What a card that is.
And you're also playing Thoughtcast, so you have 8 ways in the deck to draw 2 more cards for 1 mana.
And you really need those because it turns out when you put like 3 free artifacts into play on turn 1, you kind of start with a hand of 4 cards, and those 3 artifacts are pretty useless. So like you really need the card draw. So 8 copies of those card drawing cards is really important, especially in this deck where you don't have like these crazy cards like Urza Saga or other payoffs. Also, being mono blue in the sideboard, you get access to some disruptive and interactive tools, which in my opinion makes this deck a good choice if your meta has like some sort of combo heavy aspects to it, because you just dump your hand onto the field on turn 1, you pressure really quickly, and then you keep up 1 spell pierce to counter their crucial like combo piece, and they're dead. So if you want to be fast and a bit disruptive, then I think this is a perfect budget deck actually. Should we move on? Yeah,
deck 2 is pretty exciting. So there's a deck called Mono Green Tron. It's very good in Modern right now. It's a competitive deck. Right now it's in the top tier 1. And the thing is, it's called Tron because it's playing lands. They're called Urza Tron lands. If you assemble 3, 1 of each, they all tap together for 7 mana. So this alternative Mono Green Tron deck plays all the cards that fetch lands. So you've got Sylvan Scrying, you've got Explorer to kind of ramp out, you've got Ancient Stirrings, Expedition Map. You have decent ways, basically the tier 1 Modern ways of assembling Tron, but then you play just not as powerful finishers. So you're playing Mirror Battlesphere, which still ends the game in like 2 turns. You're playing Bane of Gala-Ged, which I'd never seen before, but it's a 7/5, and whenever Bane of Gala-Ged attacks, defending player exiles 2 permanents he or she controls.
It's a bit like Annihilator.
But with Exile.
But with Exile, it's not Karn. We won't lie to you. This deck does not play Karn. Like, this is not a substitution for Karn either. It is powered down. Like, you will still probably win matches against Jund because, yeah, Mirror Battlesphere, huge threat. Even Steel
Sundering Titan. If you resolve a Sundering Titan against any of the, like, a little more multicolored against elementals, you just one-sided destroy all of their lands. Like, it's still a very consistent deck, and I feel like out of the 5 decks we're going to talk about today, this is the one the most likely to kind of run away with some games a lot of the time, just because getting 7 mana on turn 3, no matter what you're powering out, 7 mana spells are not meant to be played on turn 3. So if you just take the cheapest in real money wise 7 mana spells and flip them all in a deck, it's probably still going to be very powerful.
Probably. So one last thing on the mono green deck is that I was really surprised that the entire mana base and like assembly of the Tron lands cost below 50 euros. Like, you could just fit that in the deck.
All these cards are a few pennies. Well, forests, basic forest cost nothing. But all the Tron lands are less than €1 on Cardmarket. All the artifacts, they're all commons and uncommons. So they're considerably cheap. This whole deck is actually just €33 and 43 cents with shipping. And most of the cost is just sending yourself random commons, because the actual deck is €8.27.
So you might even have a lot of these commons already.
Yeah, if you have them sitting around at home, this is very easy to assemble.
Anyways, let's move on. Next deck, pretty spicy one.
This is spicy, and I don't know, this is the one I'm least convinced about.
Wow, Carl. Come on, no, I have to agree with you. This is probably the most kind of deck on our list here, but it's fun. It is very fun. It is Temur Rhinos.
Yeah, and it's a deck that's very expensive, so if you want to get the Temur Rhinos experience at a budget, like the Lidl version of the Temur Rhinos experience, this is how you find it.
This is how you find it indeed, because Rhinos themselves don't cost that much. Crashing Footfalls doesn't cost that much.
Also, Shardless Agent! It just didn't come to mind that you could just pay less than €2 for a playset of Shardless Agent.
Yeah.
It's just not expected.
It's something special. Also, Bloodbraid Elf, where you really have to take the cuts is the interaction. All the free interaction that you get in the original deck that costs more than 3 mana is kind of powerful. Like, so we're replacing it with less powerful versions of it, and you really notice the cuts. Like, instead of playing cards like Subtlety and the likes, you're suddenly playing
Armed and Dangerous.
Armed and Dangerous.
Well, you are playing Fire Knight still, which is good. But
it's
still
a good card,
not one of the best cards in that deck normally.
It's not Fury, like in the original deck, right? Like, it's more reliant on cheesing the opponent out with a very early 8 power on the board, and you're less well suited to play the mid game.
Which still, you're going to steal a few games by just turn 3, paying 3 mana, putting 10 power on the board, and then attacking in 2 turns with some bounce spells and burn.
You will for sure. But don't pick this one up if you want the most bang for your buck. Pick this one up if you want the most Rhinos for your buck, because
Rhinos still do bang most of the time, so you're most likely going to get something.
You're going to get some bang out of it, but not as much bang as out of the mono green Tron deck, for example.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just €44.25. So for less than like your average video game, you get a lot of nice staple cards, and it seems pretty strong. And you get some maybe a 2-1 at an F&M.
Yeah, and you'll get some fun games out of it. That's the most important.
You'll play a lot of really spicy cards.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the one I actually think I'm going to buy just to play with people that are not playing as competitive Modern, because this seems super fun. We have Blue-White Control. And okay, sure, you're not playing Chalice, you're not playing any of the Teferis, but
may I interest you in your savior? Dovenbahn.
Okay, yeah, sure. It does feel like school playground control, but the cards you're playing are just about the same. And if you want to play kind of a draw go style thing, a lot of these cards used to be mono staples or are still super powerful. For a €37.83, you get a whole control deck that is maybe not tier 1, but I would say easily tier like 2.5. You get Condemn, which sure is no Path to Exile, it's no Swords to Plowshares to write home about, but sometimes it is Swords to Plowshares. If your opponent attacks, you get Consider, which is played in the deck in actuality. You get a Sphinx's Revelation, which ruined Standard at the time. You could only fit 1, because it's too expensive. Luckily, in this version, you have 3 Gideon Jura. Gideon Jura his days are long gone. He's not as expensive as he used to be. When he used to be a modern all-star, now he's cheap enough that you can fit 3 in the deck, even a Narset.
Yeah.
Also, in the best of times, Absorb is going to be great. You play 4 Counterspell, because remember, that card is modern legal now and vastly inexpensive.
And truly, you do just get the blue-white control experience for 37 euros.
Yeah.
Like, that's worth it.
For 37 euros, you get to never play on your turn, drag out the games as long as possible, and tank for 20 minutes while your opponent hopefully concedes just because they're bored.
I gotta say, I think this is one of the decks where the budget mana base kicks you a bit, because sometimes it's important to play that turn 4 Supreme Verdict, or in this case, Shadow the Sky. And when you're sitting there with 3 lands,
4
and you have
planes in your deck.
Yeah, 4 planes in your deck, and then you have to play a tapped Tranquil Cove.
You gain 1 life.
Yeah, you gain 1 life, and then you probably take a lethal. So that like will kick you sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's still the blue-white control experience on a budget.
Yeah, and you want your Elastic Onion to play on tap, so you're gonna play the basics. Anyways, have a look at it, guys. If you go in the comments, we'll have pinned a comment with all the deck lists. Go check there. And this last one is the spiciest of all of them, because it's an actual tier 1 deck that you see in Modern. It's probably one of the best, or one of the 3 best decks in Modern at the moment.
Blue-red tempo, or as this one is called, Is It Delver? And I can confirm that it is Delver.
Because it has the card Delver of Secrets in it.
It has the card Delver of Secrets in it. It also has, for threats, Dragon Rage Channeler, Magmatic Channeler, and Terramander in it.
Yeah.
So you lose the Murktide Regent. That's like
it's a rare from a set that wasn't printed in a huge amount.
Yeah, so you lose that one because it's hella expensive, but the threats are good. Like, these are legitimate.
Dragon's Rave Channeler is a legacy staple card right now.
It is, and Magmatic Channeler, kind of a great card for this kind of deck, just because a 2-mana 4/4, it is gonna do the beatings. Like, and you're more of a tempo deck anyway, so the threat base is great, and
your disruption base is awesome. You get to play Unholy Heat and Counterspell.
It like a lot of the recent interaction that got printed is very strong at a low rarity. It's not like they released a powered up version of Lightning Bolt that deals 4 damage at Mythic. No, they released Unholy Heat at Common, which is one of the best interactive spells we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it's often 6 damage for 1 mana.
They released Counterspell.
Yeah, Counterspell, common or uncommon? It's uncommon, correct?
I think it's an uncommon.
Yeah, and you even get to play Disrupting Shawl, which is super exciting.
It
feels like Force of Will.
It truly feels like Force of Will.
It's not usually Force of Will, but it feels like Force of Will when it works.
It's not even Force of Negation in most cases, but you don't really feel the downgrade with the Disrupting spells because they're going to work. They're going to put in the work, and it's going to propel you forward in tempo and make your Dragon's Rage Channeler into a 3/3.
So where do you feel the downgrade here?
Once again, like with control, you're gonna have that Swiftwater Cliffs in hand. You really want to play an untapped land to keep up Disruption, to keep up a Lightning Bolt, to keep up a Thought Scour even, and you won't get to because you will not be able to take 2 damage off the Steam Vents. Maybe you have a Scalding Tarn lying around at home. Slot it in. Maybe you have a Steam Vents lying around at home. Slot it in. Because the Swiftwater Cliffs is gonna bite you in the butt sometimes.
But that's a good segue to what we wanted to bring up last. Once again, we want to remind people of the contest, and in the contest, you cannot leave an addendum where you tell us, okay, this is 50 euro, this is less than 100 euro if I use my own Scalding Tarns. That is not allowed.
Yeah, so please, for the contest, submit your decks until the 21st of November.
Okay.
Midnight that day, UK time. Once again, send your deck list to mtg-contest@cardmarket.com. I'll play your deck against Carl, and if you win, we'll send the deck your way.
Basically, you want me to lose. Anyways, we'll let you go. We'll remind you to subscribe one more, please, and see you next week.